So Duessa 2000, otherwise known as Nicole, was the winner of the whole name that YouTuber contest thing, and her challenge for me was to do a entire history of the Montreal Canadiens, known rival to that team there and that team there. Montreal Canadiens are actually the oldest ice hockey team in the world, or at least consecutively running, because they've been around since December 4th of 1909. That predates the NHL. Back then they were part of the NHA, or National Hockey Association. Just before the forming of the NHL, they actually won their first Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup being another thing that actually predates the NHL. In 1917, the Canadiens, along with 4 other NHA teams, created the NHL, the National Hockey League, what we know today as was probably the most popular hockey league in the entire world. The Montreal Canadiens actually ended up winning their first NHL Stanley Cup in 1924. This was the first, but certainly not the last time that they would win it, as they have actually won 23 NHL Stanley Cups. I am not kidding, guys. They've won Stanley Cups in, and I quote, 1916, 1924, 1930, 1931, 1944, 1946, 1953, 1956, 1957, 1958, 1959, 1960, 1965, 1966, 1968, 1969, 1971, 1973, 1976, 1977, 1978, 1979, 1986, and 1993. That's impressive, no matter how you spin it. In fact, you may have even noticed the fact that they have won a Stanley Cup in every decade from the 1910s to the 1990s. That streak only ended 2 years ago, led by what was known as the Punchline, known for their, you know, stylistic fighting tendencies. They actually won a couple of Stanley Cups in the 40s, and in the 50s and 60s they had a complete resurgence. I believe it was 10 and 15 years? No, sorry, they won 5 straight Stanley Cups in the 1950s and 60s because of amazing players like Jacques Plante. Jacques Plante was a reject by any standard. He was a complete and total reject. The Philadelphia Flyers, who were a terrible team, didn't want him, and so they just threw him to Montreal. Montreal's like, we'll take him. Thanks for the greatest goaltender of our time. Jacques Plante is also known for being one of the first goaltenders to wear a mask. Now, this was largely considered a bad move at the time, but Jacques Plante was a very smart guy, and he knew that getting hit in the face with a puck to your straight bare face is a bad idea. At least throwing a piece of, like, plastic in front of your face is gonna protect your bones from caving in on themselves if you ever get hit with a puck. I mean, Jacques, good thinking, dude. The Montreal Canadiens basically became what the Chicago Bulls were to basketball in the 1990s. Canadiens in the 1977 season, with help from people like Guy Lafleur, actually ended up going 72-8. It's an 80-game season. Let's put this in perspective here, guys. A baseball season is 162 games. 162, okay? Now, let's just take 2 games off, okay? No problem. 2 games off, you have 160 games. That would be like a team in the freaking Major League Baseball going 144-16. Who's the main reason for all of this? It's actually Scotty Bowman, who was the head coach for their last 5 championships in the 70s, and that dude just knew how to coach that team. He actually holds the record for most NHL victories by a coach. Yeah, I mean, that dude's just good. There is no doubt when you look at the Montreal Canadiens' history that they are one of the most amazing teams to see, because their consistency is unbelievable. It's unprecedented, it's unrivaled, it's everything. You look at the team and you have to at least respect the fact that in 2008 they become the first and only NHL team to have 3,000 victories and with seasons like the 72-8 season. Is that really surprising anyone? I forgot to mention Patrick Waugh. If you don't know who Patrick Waugh is, look it up. Seriously, look up Patrick Waugh. Dude was a rookie goaltender and took the Montreal Canadiens, basically carrying the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup in his first year. In 1986, I believe it was. 1986, is that what it was? Believe so. Not positive. 1986. I was correct. Hey! And then again in 1993. This team has been around without a single year off except for the lockout for 103 years. Canadiens are known for having some of the most dedicated fans in history, and no matter what people say, I mean, there are definitely fans that are... People say that they're too rambunctious, too out of hand. I've seen much worse fans, okay? The Philadelphia Eagles booed Santa Claus, okay? That's it for me. That's a comprehensive history. If there's anything else you want to know about Montreal Canadiens history, just ask me in the comment section down below. I have the Wikipedia page right here, so I'll be able to answer anything that you have to ask. Okay, I will talk to you later.